Hey, welcome back to the CommonGround North Dakota podcast. I'm Heather.
And I'm Jen.
I've been a chef for 10 years.
And I'm a registered dietitian. We've all heard the saying, farm to table. But what if the conversation was table to farm?
Join Jen and I as we sit down with ag experts to dig in and find out more about North Dakota agriculture. Welcome back to CommonGround North Dakota podcast. I'm Heather.
I'm Jen.
And thanks for coming in for another episode.
Yeah, today, what are we talking about today, Heather?
We're learning about ethanol.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we have lots of questions. Like, we talked about it just briefly at the beginning when we first started our podcast, but now it's time to dig a little deeper.
Dig deeper. Because ethanol is one of those things where I pretend I know. I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No. And you see it like listed places. So we'll get into that. Like, where are you seeing it? How is it used? And we have an expert.
Thank goodness.
We need those,
we
right?
Need an expert
to answer all our questions and to help consumers understand. Right? So, should we welcome our guest? Well, welcome, Tracey.
Hi, Tracey.
Good morning. How are you two?
Good. Will you tell us your title? You have a very official title.
You do.
Yes, I'm Chief Operations Officer for Guardian Energy.
Guardian Energy.
That's such a cool name.
I like it.
Yes. And
what do you do in your role?
Sure. So, as a Chief Operations Officer, I'm responsible for the operations of the ethanol plants we run that produce ethanol. We have 3 plants that I'm responsible for, one in Lima, Ohio, one in Janesville, Minnesota, and one here in Hankinson, North Dakota.
Okay.
Is Guardian Energy only ethanol?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we are ethanol producers, and I don't want to get into too many details right now, and we can get into that, but I think there may be a perception that, all we produce is ethanol. Well, we actually produce 3 products at our facilities. We produce ethanol.
Okay.
We produce a distiller's grains, and then we also produce a crude corn oil. Oh. So those are our 3 main products that we produce.
Cool. And that's all coming from the corn?
That's all coming from a kernel of corn.
Okay.
Wow,
and
cool.
Tracey, let's just break down ethanol. Will you just simplify it for us?
We're basically modern day moonshiners.
Oh. Okay. That's exciting. That should be your new title.
Of course we do it legally. So we can't, which takes a little of the fun and the intrigue out of it, probably. But, it's really an old process. What we're doing is we are taking the starch that's in the corn, and we use enzymes to convert that into simple sugars. And then we use yeast, which consumes those sugars, and it produces ethanol or alcohol, grain alcohol. And it produces CO2 is what the yeast produce. Now, what's left, again, we're only converting the starch from corn into ethanol. What's left is you have corn oil, you have fiber, and you have protein. And so, I guess just try to be very simplistic. We after the fermentation process, we have a big tank that's full of alcohol, a mixture of alcohol, water, fiber, protein, and corn oil.
Okay.
And so then it has to go through a separation process, which is called distillation.
Okay.
So in the distillation, we heat up that mixture. And because ethanol has a lower boiling point than water, we take that off as a vapor. And that's essentially how we separate the alcohol from the water and the other solids.
Okay.
That's cool.
Really cool.
Yeah. So it and as far as the separation, it becomes a vapor, and then of course we cool it or condense it to become a liquid again.
Okay.
So that's kind of the basic process.
Okay.
The solids in the water that is left, we take that through what we call a centrifuge process. And if you think about a centrifuge, it's basically like a clothes dryer on spin cycle.
Okay.
And so it pushes everything to the outside, and there's a screen on it that kind of separates your solids from your liquids. So your liquids kind of drop out, and you still have these solids remaining. And those solids, then we take those solids through a dryer, and we make dried distiller's grains.
Okay.
So that's the feed product that we produce.
Okay.
The liquids, the water and the oil are in kind of the liquids. We take them and we end up, running them through another separation process to extract our crude corn oil.
Okay.
And then all the water is recycled. So we recycle most of our water and to reuse it again.
Wow.
So it's a very efficient and very integrated operation.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
And so one little change in one area will create a cause and effect type situation in another plant. So it's fun. It's fun.
So who started this process? And
where was it discovered?
Right.
Like when did ethanol start?
Well, again, it's basically moonshining.
Yeah.
Right.
So, it was started thousands of years ago, really.
Okay.
And in essence, over the years, that process has just been refined.
Okay.
And, we talk about yeast and enzymes, and, this is fermentation process is a living process. It's a biological process. And so, there's been a lot of work and research and development on new strains of enzymes that can withstand different stresses, whether that be heat, whether that be infections. And so, these enzyme manufacturers literally, can extract enzymes from like the bottom of the ocean and from volcanoes and all these different locations to create, different properties to help them survive through different conditions. So it's like I say, it's a very, it's a biological process. I don't want to say it's complex, but
I'm going to go ahead and say
there's a lot of.
It reminds me of chemistry class or but like science. It's all about science and refining it, like you said. So
Correct.
Ethanol, like when I think of ethanol, I see the 10% ethanol when I'm fueling up my car.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
Why 10%? Yep. Like, is there something special about the mix? Is it like that's the right combination? And like, how does describe that? Like, why 10%?
Certainly. So the 10% really kind of comes from the Renewable Fuel Standard, which was enacted by Congress initially in 2005. And then in 2007, it was improved upon. Okay. And what that called for is what they call obligated parties to use 10% of all fuels produced need to contain renewable fuels within them. Okay. So that's probably, kind of the, where the 10% comes from.
Okay. Sure. So, and we use that gas to fill our cars. Can I use that when I go to the lake and I'm filling up the jet ski and the boat? Actually, I'm not filling up that. Right. But when our families are filling it up. When they're doing that. Can I use it for the lawnmower? What is that?
Yeah, you can. You can use it, and I know that's the common perception that it is not good for small engines.
Okay.
I've used it in my small engines. It's kind of like any gasoline. And, you talk about small engines and jet skis and boats.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just leave the gas in there.
Sure.
You got to take care of them like you do with regular gas.
Yep.
Because alcohol is a solvent. So, if there's, I think a lot of the common problems that have occurred is, regular gasoline, if you let it sit for a long time, it separates out and it gets, it deposits some kind of gummy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, what ethanol does is actually cleans that.
Oh.
It dissolves those solids. Well, then as those solids go through your engine, that's what causes a lot of the issues.
Oh.
Okay.
And so...
and that's just if it's sitting for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope that kind of addresses your question. But yes, it's safe to use. You need to take practices like, standard practices of care, so to speak,
Sure.
when using it. But no, it's fine.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Good to know because you can save money.
Yeah. And you described like ethanol being a renewable fuel source.
Right.
And so if our consumers are wondering, how is that, I guess, better for the environment to use a renewable fuel source versus just the standard old gasoline?
Certainly. So the biggest importance to that is the greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
So what is being emitted through the production and use of ethanol versus conventional gasoline?
Yeah.
And ethanol has somewhere between 44 to 50% less emissions than conventional gasoline.
Wow, that's significant.
That is significant.
It is significant. And, one of the, as we talk about that, we break that down a little more, the direct emissions out of your tailpipe, you have, the greenhouse gases, which includes CO2, it includes nitrous oxide, all these chemicals that traps the heat within, within the ozone, and it leads to, climate change and the heating of the environment.
Okay.
But there are other substances like carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons and air toxics like benzene
Okay.
associated with conventional gasoline that ethanol doesn't have those.
Okay.
Fine particulate matter is another component that conventional gasoline has a lot of fine particulate matter, which can pass through your throat and nose and enter your lungs, causing serious health effects.
Okay.
And so, again, ethanol is definitely a cleaner burning fuel that reduces those.
So speaking of that, it seems like there's many benefits of it. Do you see that growing any? Like, are we going to put more percent of ethanol into fuel sources? Do you see, and how have you seen that grow over like your history with the company and with ethanol production?
There's a lot of parts to that,
Yes.
to the answer to that question.
Okay.
So renewable fuels required, 10% use of renewables.
Okay.
And so in the early years, if we look at the whole use of ethanol as a percentage of ethanol used in all the fuel produced has grown over the years.
Okay.
It started out as a minimum level of 10%. Now, last year was the largest usage, and that percentage is like 10.8% or something like that of all fuel used in the United States is ethanol.
Okay.
Okay.
And part of the growth in the ethanol is due to the use of what we call E15 or unleaded 88,
Okay.
which is a fuel that contains 15% alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Or ethanol.
Yep.
Other things that drive that is, E85
Yep.
is another fuel that consists of 85% ethanol.
85% ethanol. Where do I get that?
Well, yeah, that's part of our challenge.
Okay.
The petroleum companies had about 100 years advantage on us
Sure.
Okay.
as far as building out infrastructure,
Yep.
pipelines, etc.
Mhm.
And if you think about it, all the car engines were built around the use of gas.
Right.
So we sell most of our products to the petroleum industry.
Okay.
So our customer is also kind of our
Competitor.
Competitor. Yeah.
Oh, that's an
competitor.
interesting.
So then they decide how much ethanol they're putting in?
That's part of it.
Okay.
And then also there's some antiquated federal regulations regarding what they call reed vapor pressure.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, you could have said anything there, Tracey.
Yeah,
we would have
been like, yep.
Sure, yeah.
So the ethanol industry groups have been, pushing the EPA to allow the use of E15 year round.
Okay.
Okay.
The EPA has not acted upon that.
Okay.
However, the last 2 years, we've received emergency waivers to allow the use of E15 year round.
Okay.
So that makes it available, again, to consumers throughout the country year round.
Okay.
Prior, it was limited to certain periods of the year due to, temperature.
Okay.
And so, that has helped to grow it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think a lot of it has to do with, again, people not understanding, the full benefits of ethanol.
Right.
And, back to my opening statement where our consumer is also kind of our competitor.
Mm-hmm.
There are, certain requirements to gas stations that will only allow you to put maybe one pump in that has ethanol.
Oh.
You're right.
And
I
so
always have to check to see which ones have the ethanol.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, it gets pretty complex,
Yeah.
but that's what makes it a little challenging at times.
Yeah.
Sure.
Trying to think, what other parts of that question did I not answer?
No, I think that answered it. And I actually have another one, like following up. So you talked about, petroleum being a competitor, but a partner. What are your thoughts on like electric cars too?
Yeah. So, again, I guess I'm pro-choice. I mean, meaning, people should have the opportunity to choose, what fuel, what vehicle, whatever they want to produce. And I'm also one that says that there's no silver bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
Meaning there's not a perfect option for everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think, yes, I mean, the challenges in rural areas, they call it range anxiety,
Yeah.
meaning, how far can you
How
go?
far can you go?
Right. And especially in the winter,
Yes.
you think about electric vehicles and during the winter when it's, when the wind chill is 40 below in North Dakota,
Right.
Yep.
a lot of that energy is used to heat, the cabin, to keep you warm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the mileage reduces, because more energy is used to, keep you sustained
Yeah.
and alive while you're moving.
Right.
So that's why the range on electric vehicles drop dramatically during the winter.
I didn't even know that.
You would have been in trouble. Good thing.
I mean, I'd be like, yeah, I have like a full battery. Whoa! I guess I'm not going all the way here.
Right. So again, I think there's locations, I think of like Hawaii, for example. I think that's probably the perfect place for electric vehicles. They
Not going very far.
They produce a lot of renewable energy through solar. They don't travel that far.
Right.
So like I say, I think there are locations
Okay.
that are more fit for different types of fuels.
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely.
With our climate, it'd be hard.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. With the climate and the distances you'd normally travel, it would be, I think it'd be challenging in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Well, and even just when I stop to get gas with my kids in the car and it takes 5 minutes, right? They're like, oh, we have to stop.
Oh my gosh, why didn't
imagine
you shut
being
up
at
the
a
car?
charging station?
No.
Just wouldn't.
TikTok.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know.
Exactly. Those are the other considerations is,
And they don't have
the
snacks.
charging
Yeah.
time,
No
or
snacks.
even the infrastructure in your house. If you want to try to
Oh.
charge it at home,
Right, didn't think
Yeah.
about
you,
that.
you need to make an investment in that. And the other, to take that a little farther, is not, your electrical infrastructure, like serving your neighborhood, doesn't have the capacity. If everybody
Right.
decided to install charging units in their house, there'd be a problem because your electrical infrastructure would not be able to support
Oh,
that.
that's interesting.
Didn't even think about that.
So how many electric cars are in my neighborhood right now?
Yes.
It's so interesting
It is
to learn
interesting.
about all that goes into fuel production. What considerations do you have? So you mentioned you have plants, one in North Dakota. Is that the only ethanol plant in North Dakota, or are there others?
Yes, there are others.
Okay.
We are one of 5 in North Dakota.
Okay.
I'll start from the west and go east.
Okay.
How about that? As far as
Yeah.
so, Red Trail Energy is located in Richardson, North Dakota.
Okay.
Blue Flint Ethanol is in Underwood. You've got Spirit Wood Ethanol is located in
Like by Jamestown?
Yeah, well, it's located in Spirit Wood.
Spiritwood.
Yeah. Well named.
Thurlton Ethanol located in Castleton,
Okay.
which is just west of Fargo. You've got Hankinson Renewable or Guardian Energy Hankinson in Hankinson down in the southeast corner.
Okay.
And then you have Red River Biorefinery in Grand Forks.
Okay.
Actually, 6 ethanol facilities in North Dakota.
Okay.
And are there more coming? Is this something you see growing in North Dakota?
That's a great question. There is potential for growth in North Dakota. The challenge is there's a lot of maybe uncertainty,
Okay.
with ethanol due to the push for electric cars and, like I say, considerations that are being made in Washington and
Okay.
in other states that, like I say, there's some uncertainty there.
Sure.
As a producer of ethanol, do you have strategies to, like you mentioned, you're not sure, like some people don't understand ethanol. Do you have certain ways that you communicate that out or educate the public?
A lot of it, we do rely on our professional organizations.
Okay.
Nationally, we have the Renewable Fuels Association
Okay.
and Growth Energy.
Okay.
They are strong advocates and also educators.
Okay.
A lot of the states, and North Dakota being one of them, has state organizations. In North Dakota, we have the Ethanol Producers Association,
Okay.
and then we also have the North Dakota Ethanol Council.
Oh.
And so they are our advocates in the state.
Okay.
Great.
And I happen to be the chairman of the North Dakota Ethanol Producers
Wow,
Association.
Okay.
And Jeff Suger is the chairman of the North Dakota Ethanol Commission.
Okay.
And Jeff is the CEO of the plants in Underwood, Blue Flint, and Dakota Spirits in Spiritwood.
Okay. So that's good. I think
Nice
to
to-
have those advocacy groups just to educate the public on like what is ethanol? Why is it beneficial for the environment or for consumers to use, and just what is it? Because I feel like that's sometimes like the biggest barrier is that consumers just don't understand.
Right. And it is, I mean, if you pull up to a gas station, it is kind of confusing.
It is.
There's a lot of pumps. There's a lot of labeling, and it is hard to understand.
Yep. It's just like nutrition, Jeff. There's lots of labels. There's tons of diets out there. Nobody knows. And one day it's good and one day it's bad. I would guess that it's the same for fuel.
Well, and that's why it's nice to have those resources that you can go read the information and become a more knowledgeable consumer.
Absolutely.
But honestly, for me, I look at the price. It's like that thing.
Right.
It's cheaper. It works just like other gas.
Yeah.
I don't even think twice. I always get ethanol.
Yeah. Same.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
You're
of
welcome.
course. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ethanol is the only cost-effective liquid fuel alternative. Mm-hmm. There are other fuels, but they're not cost competitive.
Okay. Well, it sounds
and your engines aren't necessarily designed to run on those.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and it sounds like you use the whole product of corn. Like you're really being efficient in your processes.
Yes.
Like you're using everything, and then you're reusing the water, which is
That's huge.
Something that's important. Water is like an important thing.
So you explained what the ethanol is for. We know that there's feed that's used. What about the oil? What do you use the oil extracted for?
Well, that's a great question. There's two sources or two users of the oil. Most recently, the largest consumer is for the production of renewable diesel fuel.
Oh.
So that is kind of the largest consumer.
Okay.
The other consumer is animal nutrition.
Okay.
Because it's an energy component.
Yep.
My example is, I don't know if you see these huge turkeys, 30, 40-pound turkeys. In order to raise them that large, they have to have kind of a high fat content diet, high energy content diet. And that is how they get that energy content, is through the use of.
That's how they bulk up.
How they bulk up.
Energy, right? Fat is 9 calories per gram. Carbs and protein are 4.
It's so nice.
Alcohol is actually 7. Like,
really?
Wow.
Going back to my chemistry roots.
Yeah, if you have any questions for Jen, Tracey, go ahead. She'll break it down.
I mean, I don't know. Like, we've talked about math not being my strong suit, but there's certain things that I do remember.
Okay, so that's where that oil goes. Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think now is a great time for you to ask us some trivia questions if you're ready. So let me get our whiteboards. Basically, we'll have you ask us a question and we'll write down the answer, but then we'll tell you. And whoever is closest or gets it right on gets the point. And we have 3. Yeah. Heather won last time, so she has the golden corn trophy with her name on it.
It was a lot of cooking questions, so I feel like I cheated, but I'm still taking it. I'm still taking it.
I mean, we dabble in the culinary arts as dietitians. We're never experts.
The golden corn, I mean, that is a perfect.
I think
Isn't it gorgeous?
For ethanol.
Yes.
I know.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, great. All right, are you ready?
We're ready.
What percentage do you think of North Dakota, of the corn produced in North Dakota, goes to the production of ethanol?
Oh.
Okay.
I don't know either.
I said 75%.
I said 65%.
The number is somewhere between 40 and 60%.
You got it, Jen. Yes. That's pretty high.
Hey, that is.
So, I mean, that is why it's really important to the agricultural community and the ag economy in a whole. It's a large consumer of their product.
Absolutely.
This one's probably harder yet.
Okay.
But what models of cars can use E15 or unleaded 88?
What models?
Yeah.
All right.
What? And think in general terms.
Oh, okay. Like brands of cars.
Maybe think about just just think in general terms, I guess. And this is a tough one.
Well, you know, I don't know. Like,
Are
I'm
we
going
saying
real
like
general.
4-cylinder engines? What are we saying, Tracey? I'm just
So, again, this is a tough one, but yet it's a good one in that. So all
all of them?
all 2001 model years and newer can use E15.
Oh, shoot.
Well, that's
I put
impressive.
GM.
So that was a little bit of a trick question you gave us. I like it.
Apologize.
No, I
No,
like
that's
it.
great.
And that's good to know. So
If you have
2021.
Any model.
2001.
2001.
Right.
Wow.
So like 96% of all the cars that are being used can use E15.
Sure. Okay.
So if there's ever a concern about using E15, well, now you know.
Yeah.
Anything newer than 2001,
Okay.
you know,
Use it.
E15.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
and it's cheaper.
It's
Yes.
We're saving you money here on our
Yes.
podcast.
There you go.
All right. What's your final question, Tracey?
So my final question, I think, is kind of the most interesting one. So when Henry Ford designed the Model T, what did he believe the fuel of choice would be?
Henry Ford. What was going on back then, Jen?
I don't know. I'm going to guess. This is probably going to be a
I don't even know. I'm just going to say corn. Did he know?
I put alcohol.
Ding, ding, ding. That's correct.
Alcohol.
You're kidding.
Ethanol. Yep. He felt that ethanol would be the fuel to
He
power.
did. So he
The
was ahead of
vehicles.
his time.
Oh,
He was ahead of his
goodness.
time.
Well, we should believe him, right?
Yeah,
I
right?
feel like
There we go.
he's the guy.
Right.
He's like the,
Father of cars.
Ford. Or, yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Well, thanks for shedding a light on ethanol. We needed that.
We did, for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing some of that knowledge with us.
Yeah, we
appreciate it.
We do have one last question for you, Tracey. What's your favorite part of being involved with North Dakota agriculture?
You know, that's a great question, and it's an easy answer.
Okay.
And it's the people.
Yep.
I mean, the people are hardworking. You know, they understand that we need to continually improve. Then they are, honest. They're just wholesome people.
Yep.
That's been the key to maybe my longevity in the industry too, is working with the people and the diverse backgrounds they have.
Yeah.
That's so true. It's good people.
It is.
Yes.
Well, we've enjoyed our conversation with you
Thank you
today.
so much.
We so appreciate you taking the time to educate us and our consumers and our listeners about ethanol.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye now.
I think we tied.
We did. So,
Well, that's okay.
Yeah. It's good.
We'll put JH. I mean, that's my initials too.
But we know what it
it's
means.
okay.
We know what it means.
J/H.
Excellent. Well, that was fun.
I didn't know, like, E15.
E15.
Like, you can use it if you have a...
Right. I'm going to keep my eye out for that.
Me too. I'm going to look for it. I'm going to drive around. You know how you, like, have to get the best spot?
Yes.
Like, it's like a parking spot, except you're driving around the gas station.
Uh-huh.
For sure.
We'll look for it.
sure. We will. Yeah, that was very, like... Wow, there's a lot to know about like the process, but it's good to know that they're using all that stuff. It's a sustainable source of energy. And I think like Tracey said, it's not a lot of people know about it or like understand it to the level that he explained today, which I think is important.
And that we can use it for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. You can listen to North Dakota Common Ground Podcast on anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yep.
Or find us on YouTube.
Thanks for joining us today and tune in for another episode soon.
Yes. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Common Ground North Dakota podcast. Make sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Most importantly, send us your questions about North Dakota agriculture by visiting our website. You might win a prize. We'll see you in the next episode of the Common Ground North Dakota podcast.